defense that's kind of struggling like LSU, I mean, what does that do for you? I mean, does that put a little bit more pressure on you knowing, hey, like, I got to pin them deep, we maybe play a field position game here?
Oh, yeah, I mean, every punt, I have the intention to, flip the field the best I can or pin them the best I can. But, I mean, then again, you never really know, regardless of how the other guys are performing. Last game we only punted twice. I've had games punted 7 times. So it's really, I mean, no matter who we're playing, no matter what the situation is, it's always, like, what's my assignment and what am I trying to do for that punt? And that's just my, my headspace there. It's always the same, so.
Talk a little bit about your development from fall camp to now, seeing the consistency with your punts has improved since then.
Yeah, I think I've always been, better in games. I think, I just kind of get in that game mode a little bit more, taking care of my body a little bit better, recovery, and then just, technical and tactical things, just, staying shorter with my steps and, other things, with my form have been a huge part of my improvement. And then really just confidence, once you, have a good game in an environment like this, it's easy to kind of just keep it rolling. So that was another big factor.
And developing upon that, is there anything that you want to personally improve on with the 5 games remaining on the schedule as we get towards the end of the year?
I'd say really from a tactical standpoint, really just hang time. That's a big factor. Help get more time for our guys to get down there, so we can bring that net punt up. Distance-wise, I've been doing pretty solid on the year, but just want to get a little more hang time, get them down there. But other than that, I like where we're at, so I just want to keep building the consistency. Continue to do that for the next 5 games.
Growing up, like guys say, I want to be a quarterback or a wide receiver or a running back. How do you decide along the way? How do you become a punter?
Yeah, so I mean, really, I was more of a basketball player, soccer player. I kind of just played football because everyone does, and then my brother was actually a kicker, so started kicking field goals and punting my sophomore and junior year, and then ended up just being really talented out of nowhere, and so kind of just took off. And really, once you start getting attention from colleges, that's when you kind of make that decision, like, all right, like this is what I want to do. And then I just fell in love with it, and so now I don't see myself being in any other position, even if I was capable. So, yeah.
And do you look at it as wow, this could be a great career, like punter,
for sure.
NFL? You do it for 20 years,
Yeah. So I mean, we have Brad Wing and Donnie Jones, 2 punters that both did in the NFL in here, and so we kind of talk about it. It's definitely something that I see in my future that I never really did. Growing up, like I never thought I'd be 1 in this position, but 2 just like punting football. So. But it definitely has become quickly something that I see myself pursuing.
Do you have your eyes on records and trying to break them here?
Not really. I mean, it's really like I was talking about. It's week to week. We have a game plan. My assignment, and so it's whatever that is I'm just trying to do that to the best of my ability to help the team, and hopefully that's something that'll come along. I think I have the talent, I have the the frame and the work ethic and what I do to be able to break records and number wise and all that, But really, it's just week by week. What is my assignment? And, how can I do that to help the team be in a position where we can win? In a conference that's so competitive. So
there hasn't been many this season, if any. But put me in the mind of a punter. When you have a bad punt or something goes wrong on a punt, kind of what does that do to you mentally when you're put back out on the field that next time?
Oh, it's really just you gotta be short-minded. Same thing with the kicker. If you miss. Tactically in the game, if I do have a bad punt location-wise, the first thing I'm doing is just screaming, left, right, middle, whatever, let my guys know. But yeah, I mean, it's just you just got to wipe it and move on to the next one. It's really, I mean, even when you have a good punt, you can't let it get to your head. You can't, go out there with cockiness or, anything like that. It's always about the next play. You're only as good as your next punt. So, it's just having a short mindset and just being able to flip the switch and get ready for the next one.
Earlier you were talking about if there's something you want to work on, it's improving your hang time. I mean, the average football fan may not know, like, what goes into that. So, like, what goes into the process of, like, I need to do this to improve on that?
Yeah. So, simplifying real quick, like, hang time is from the time it hits my foot to the time they catch it. And really the way to up that is to hit it higher. The higher it goes, longer it'll be in the air. There's some other factors like spin on the ball and stuff, but really just that. Technically, I mean, if you stay a little shorter, stand a little taller, raise your drop a little higher, I mean, that's how you'll get the ball higher. So that's kind of like the simplified version of how I can, get more hang time. And then the second part of that is just to do it in game. It's so much different, when you're actually out there versus just being at practice. It starts with the snap, like how you handle that, to like your steps, and just controlling the environment. And so, really just taking a step to technically get where I need to be in practice, and then just be able to execute that mentally, in the stadium on Saturdays.
There's not many circumstances on the football field where you may have a guy flying at you trying to, in this case, block a punt. Did it take a long time of battling that mentally, knowing that you're going to be able to get this punt off without the guy, taking you out?
Yeah, so I mean, really, I talked about hang time, like operation time, the time from the snap to the kick. When we float in that area we need to be, which I'll just tell you right now, we're like anywhere between 185 to like 195. Anything less than 2 seconds, like you're really not going to get blocked unless they're really trying to block it. But also, film doesn't lie. We watch these teams punt return, and sometimes they come after it. Some teams, like, they never come after it. They have a good returner. They try to set up a return. So when I see that on film, I know, okay, I have a little more time to kind of handle it. And I just trust my training and trust my film, and don't think about holy crap, there's huge guys coming diving at the ball. So it's really that trusting the operation time that they would have to try really hard to get there in time. So.
Obviously, you transferred in this season, and a minute ago you were talking about guys like Brad Wing and Donnie Jones. How much of that went into your decision to come here? I mean, did you reach out to those guys?
Yeah, so I had no idea. Like, I knew who they were. Especially Brad. I actually grew up a Steelers fan, so Brad was kind of my childhood punter. But I had no idea they like are around and hang out. I don't know if they did it last year too, or if it's a recent thing. But really just that decision was more based on kind of the conference I wanted to play at and the weather I wanted to play in. In that stage, not so much of that, but it's definitely been a privilege to have those guys in my ear, throughout the season, and even at practice with us, and even on the fields during games, or before games. So I didn't play a part in the decision because I didn't know that would be a factor, but it's definitely something I'm very grateful for.
As a punter, is there anything different than the average football player that you might have to do to kind of preserve that leg throughout the week as you get ready for a game?
Yeah, definitely. Kicking's a really unnatural motion. Most guys, if they're swinging their leg as hard as they can, they're going to get pretty sore. But it's just staying consistent in my recovery. I was just doing with the water, and then like treatment and rehab and all that. But it's definitely a little more taxing on my legs specifically. But as long as you do what you're supposed to, rehab treatment, like you should be fine.
So like a basketball player says, I'm going to take 500 shots today.
Yeah.
Do you have I'm going to kick this amount of punts today?
Yeah,
or?
so I don't have a set kick count, but like I said, it's definitely it's pretty taxing on your leg the more you do. So it's more just about being valuable with my reps. Like no matter how many times I spin it to myself and kick it, the only thing that's really going to help me physically build confidence is my team reps. So I'll get anywhere from like 7 to maybe like 12 a week. So it's really just how well I can prepare myself to do well in those. And then if I do well in those, like I shut it off for the day. I don't go back to our little kicker field and do more. I kind of just rely on how quality my meaningful reps can be. So really just those 7 to 15, however many it takes to get warm up. And then if those are good, I just call it for the day and take care of my body. So.
Good deal. Do punters and kickers still get playfully goofed on by their teammates?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's one of those positions where it's like you have one job, So if you don't do it, you're kind of the villain there. But as long as you're doing your job, I feel like punters and kickers are the easiest people to like and the easiest people to hate. So, so far, myself and Damien, we've been doing pretty well. So a lot of the guys, I'd say are pretty playful and, good with us. That can change in an instant. So luckily we haven't, experienced that this year. But yeah, we're kind of that, either hero or villain kind of position. So.